Welcome in, everybody, to Mad Talk Sports, episode 33. Your usual host, Joe, here, and joined by a returning guest, Fur.
What's up, everyone? Happy to be here. Episode 33. Can't believe we made it this far. Let's get it.
And this is Fur's first time joining on the video podcast here. He's repping the Eddie Lacy memorial memorabilia right behind him on top of his, right shoulder. So, yeah, he's repping the Packers as you should.
Someone's got to do it. I mean, we both do it, but, someone's got to do it.
Yep. And episode 33, I kind of went back and forth with what player to really immortalize through having the rights of having this episode named after them. But I landed with none other than Larry Bird. I felt like that was appropriate, and I was tempted to go Aaron Jones, but you got to respect the classics, man.
True. Can't go wrong. Somehow underrated.
Somehow. But today, preseason has kicked off, which means we have to talk NFL. Let's talk about the preseason a little bit, but we do have some other takeaways to get into. Specifically, we got some news in the RB market finally, and we'll start doing some early takes for what to expect this year. We have the next segment of our series of lists here. We do have a new game to dive into, and we'll also get into fantasy football a little bit here today. So football all day, all night here, and I'm excited to get going.
Hell yeah, 'tis the season.
First, let's get into the preseason. So again, action is here. Hard Knocks is 2 episodes in. We got to see the Jets, albeit with Zach Wilson at the helm in preseason action. But in watching Hard Knocks, we got to see behind the curtain for what the Jets are doing this year. Fur and I both watched the Packer preseason game and Jordan Love's quote-unquote debut as the number one guy in Green Bay. But other players have gotten out there too. Obviously, we've got some rookie quarterback news to talk about with them being named starters and some action we got to see right away. But let's jump right into some early takeaways. And Fur, I'll let you get us kicked off with kind of some of your things that you want to touch on for preseason so far.
Preseason, huh? Well, I mean, it's it's good to see that the rookies are all getting announced as starters already. Mostly, that's just, if you're trading up for guys, why wait around? And it's just good to see that they're letting these guys loose and showing that they believe in them. And it makes the preseason games that much more exciting. And obviously, Packers similar situation with the, not a rookie but first year starter, and it makes the preseason games really exciting to watch. And, we're only just cracking into them. But, so far, everyone's, they're fighting hard for, roster spots. And good example is Carrington Valentine on the Packers. He's a 7th round pick. It looked like he was just fighting for a roster spot. Now it looks like he's fighting his way potentially into the starting lineup. I've heard that they're starting to, they've always toyed around with the idea of Rasul Douglas moving to safety. They might do that. I'm starting to see they might start to experiment with that more just to get Valentine some reps. I'm starting to, who knows if it's true, but that's what the word on the street is. They're saying, outside of that, I don't know. I haven't caught too much of the preseason action so far. I'm hoping to catch a few more games before it all wraps up. But, the Jets and the Packers, who I have seen, a lot of promise from some young teams,
Yeah.
It's good to see.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously it's preseason, so we're not going to see all the tricks of the trade, if you will, from every team. But it is nice to see new, familiar faces in new places or brand new faces getting their first chance in the league. It's nice to see some of that. Packers specifically, I think one of the main things that I saw in there that I was 100% expecting, and I talked about on the last episode when I went solo, more motion in the offense, which I personally am a big fan of. And even just in preseason action, we saw quite a bit of that from the Packers. So that was very promising and very, validating for my own opinions there. And that was a nice game to watch. Obviously, the Bengals didn't really rep many starters, if any, the ones that you could name. So not like I'm ready to say the Packers are going to take over the world or anything like that, but it was very promising how Jordan Love looked in the command that he had of the offense, of the field. The young guns looked good. They looked crisp, and they look like they belong in this league. But outside of the Packers, looking elsewhere, you touched on it briefly with the rookie quarterbacks getting named the starters. Why not? I mean, we all know when you draft a QB in the top 5 or the first round in general, they're your future. So jump right in, get them the action that they deserve. Obviously, with some of these teams, there weren't really true competitions. For instance, the Texans, who was really competing with CJ Stroud? Davis Mills, they already know what he is. Let Davis Mills or let CJ Stroud play. And then for the Colts, Anthony Richardson is obviously your guy. Their ownership has been vocal that they want him to start. So yeah, why not just cut to the chase, name them your starters, and really start building your offense? It's the way of the future when it comes to getting your quarterbacks out there. Like pretty much everyone does that outside of Green Bay. And the times it doesn't happen, to some degree, you have slight concern over that quarterback. Like you think back to last year with Kenny Pickett taking some time before he took over for Mitch Trubisky. Little different there. We'll see how Kenny shapes up over the course of his career. But in general, when someone just comes in and wins the job, it's at least a good sign and should have fan bases excited.
Absolutely. At this point of the year, there's nothing to do but get excited, and pray that everyone stays healthy, hope and pray. And, this time of the year, you just see young guys and, before we know it, we'll be kicking off the games that count. And, right, really just a few Mad Talk episodes away. We'll be talking about, our reactions to the actual games, and it'll be here before we know it. Can't wait.
Yeah, we'll be getting to, the annual overreaction to week 1. Like that's just a couple weeks down the road, which huge. I am very happy about because preseason, you anticipate it. And once it comes, you're happy that it's here and you get to finally see your teams a little bit. But then after a game, maybe 2, you're like, all right, we know who the guys are. I know these guys are fighting for roster spots, but let's get to what counts. So yeah, right now it's still exciting. Now it's time to, we got time to focus in on fantasy drafts and the new Madden coming out. So this is kind of like that last little ramp up before it's just nonstop football month after month, which is the best time of the year when it comes to sports.
Hands down. Yep. That time of year, all the reactions to week 1, all the reactions to Madden ratings, all the reactions to, preseason, everything, it's reaction season.
Reaction season. Let's react to some real news that we got. And finally, running backs. We got something to talk about besides purely conjecture with 2 very big name signings. To some people, those are 2, top 10, top 15 running backs in the league still, being Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook. Let's start with Zeke. He signed with the Patriots. My initial thoughts there is that this can be nice because Zeke, albeit he feels like he's been around forever because he's on the Cowboys and he's been on a national stage since being a rookie. And before that, it was Ohio State. So we consider him a 30-year-old running back when in all reality, he's 27 going on 28. Like he is still a young man. Even for a running back, he's still got a couple good years in his legs at this point. He's got some more miles on those tires left to give.
Absolutely.
I love the signing. I love it for both sides. For the Patriots, this gives them what they always want, which is multiple usable running backs. Sure, Ramondre Stevenson is still the guy, and he's a very nice guy as far as his play style and what he produces. But Zeke, being able to add him for 1, other teams have to think about him, and 2, for reinsurance and just having another man in the room, another voice of experience, I think is excellent. And for Zeke, he has a chance in a very low risk situation to prove he's still got it and maybe get a contract next year. So I love this one for both sides.
Absolutely. Yeah, I remember, seeing that Zeke was hanging out with Mac Jones like a week or two ago, and I was like, oh man, like it's either there or nowhere. I thought at least to get signed before the season started. Like otherwise he would have had to wait it out and go somewhere where there was an injury, and it's a perfect situation for Zeke for sure to go from the Cowboys to the Patriots. He's just one iconic franchise to the other, and he gets more chances to make plays and add to his, right. Like you said, he's 27. He still has, potentially a lot of years to add to his legacy. Who knows? Maybe he goes on to have a Frank Gore type of bruiser, long career. He could be just getting started with team hopping.
That's true. That's a good point. Starting with an iconic franchise, Frank Gore, the Niners, Zeke, the Cowboys, and then kind of bouncing around from there, being the old man in the league. That's possible. I don't know. We'll see how the running back market evolves over time, because obviously this year it's been a bear market. And with that, the other big name that we've been just waiting to find out where they went or where they go, it finally happened. And that's Dalvin Cook going to the Jets. Last time I was on here, I confirmed that was 100% going to happen. We knew it was going to happen. It was a matter of time and what the deal would look like. And now he's there. Fur, I'll let you start this one off. How do you feel about Dalvin Cook?
That's it's a great move. They're loading up, and if you got a Pro Bowl caliber guy that's sitting out there, one of the last Pro Bowl caliber guys sitting out there in the free agency, if you got the money, and obviously they do have the money with Rodgers' $35 million pay cut. So, obviously they had to do something with it. So, it's a great move. Yeah. How much was it Cook get paid for? It was like not 8 million.
What'd you say?
Was it 8 or 6 million?
Something around 8 is what I was recalling. Now, I don't know if that's all base salary or if there's incentives, but regardless, it's about what the market goes right now for running backs on 1-year deals or on franchise tags, whatever it may be. But still, Rodgers taking that pay cut made that a lot more digestible, easier to stomach, because you still probably got some room left over if you do want to make another move in September or October, whether it be a signing or a trade at the deadline. So yeah, hats off to Rodgers for allowing that to happen, and hats off to the Jets for actually doing it and not overthinking it. Because it would have been easy to say, why? We've got Breece Hall, who's an electric young back. We've got Michael Carter, who's still not bad. Why go get a Pro Bowl type running back to add to the mix there? And the reason why is because, as teams have shown us in the past, there's no such thing as too many weapons. If you've got a championship mentality within your locker room and you've got the right attitudes to where everyone's team first and not worried about, I need 1,000 yards, I need 10 touchdowns. If you can avoid that, then it's strictly blessings to have extra guys. Like, let's think back to the Buccaneers when they were adding everybody to Brady's 7th championship run, bringing in, Antonio Brown and bringing back Gronk, bringing in Leonard Fournette. Like, that's what you do. When people know that that's the standard, it's a lot easier to manage in the locker room. So I think it's a great move because, again, it allows Breece Hall to come back healthy and not have to rush anything. So that's definitely a nice signing there. It doesn't change my opinion on the Jets really a whole lot, but it makes it less risk. Like, they're not a Breece Hall injury away from struggling on offense.
Yeah, definitely. It's some good insurance, definitely a boost too at times, keeping legs fresh and, better backs on the field at all times. Yeah. And they still got a lot more money to spend if they want to continue to go all in,
Yep.
8 million out of, 35 that just got freed up. Word on the street that they're trying to trade for Bakhtiari. Not even Homer talk. Just just kind of an obvious thing that people would think would happen, and I don't know.
They need the O-line help.
Yeah, they do. Right. That's why it really makes sense. Is that That's what I guess that's what they've been, late takeaways lately with the Jets is, in practice, Rodgers has been hurried a lot. And yeah, the Jets got a great D line, and that's obviously part of it, but yeah, they do need O-line help. So who knows whether they trade for Bakhtiari? Hopefully not. But yeah, they still got a lot of money to make some moves, and, Cook could be good help. They could still make a move that could help them even more, which we'll see.
Yeah.
Dangerous.
They definitely could use some help on the O-line because obviously last year their O-line was one of the worst in the league. And as evidenced and highlighted by Hard Knocks, albeit it's Hard Knocks, you got to take it with a grain of salt. It's TV. But it's real that O-line could be the iceberg that sinks the Titanic here if they aren't careful and if they aren't able to at least manage that and improve it to some degree. Because a bad O-line, again, it can sink you entirely, your entire season. And Rodgers has been blessed to be in Green Bay where offensive lines, regardless of injury or turnover, always strong.
Pretty decent. Yep.
Right. Always at least all right. And in several years, very elite. So
yep.
That's a good point. I hope they don't get Bakhtiari, but for their standpoint, they should be trying to bolster that O-line one way or another.
Right. Because Salo, I think it was Salo, was chewing them out, right? He was
Starts with you.
Yeah. For real. So a lot of ball game left, but we'll see where things go.
Yeah. We'll see how things transpire there. But taking a break from the Jets, who we'll end up talking about all year. So let's go to some guys who haven't been talked about because yes, running backs have been the news, but even with the signings, there's still people still looming, namely Leonard Fournette and Kareem Hunt. And with them still out there, I'm having trouble identifying landing spots for them, really. It's going to be almost to where they're going to be taking veteran minimum deals on competitors, maybe. Like maybe a team like the Chiefs brings in a Leonard Fournette on a very cheap deal just to add another layer. But I don't see these guys getting a Zeke or even a Cook deal. I think they're going to be player minimum level contracts to whoever's willing to pay it.
Yeah, I mean, Hunt at least I feel like we'll get a little bit of change, but I mean, definitely nothing significant. Not like Cook. I was surprised, that he even got $8 million if it was 8. Yep. So what do you think? You said where Fournette's gonna go?
Yeah, I could see Fournette landing on the Chiefs.
Oh yeah, Chiefs. That's definitely an obvious pick. They could always they're always looking to add weapons, especially cheap ones.
Yeah.
Man, dude, I don't know though. If I was the Bears, I'd be calling up Kareem Hunt, especially if it's for cheap. I mean, Khalil Herbert and Donta Foreman. Why not throw Kareem Hunt into that mix? And why not?
He might be the most talented one.
If I was them, but maybe who knows? Maybe they do scoop him. Definitely very only a matter of time before Fournette and Hunt are scooped for sure.
I could see the Vikings grabbing one of them.
Oh, for real.
Because it's just Alexander Madison there now. Like, yeah, he's fine, but could he be the bell cow? Like, come on.
Yeah, definitely. They're gonna bring in some help by the end of the year for sure.
Yeah, Kirk called me. He said we need some help over here.
Ooh, I believe it.
So yeah, we'll see where things land there and where the chips fall for the last running back still on the market. But let's start looking at who we should be keeping an eye on for not just the preseason or the coming weeks, but 2023 into 2024, the whole season here. Specifically, let's look at for sophomore surge. Rookies last year entering year number 2. Traditionally, that's where you make a leap. Whether you're a quarterback or running back receiver, that's usually the year where you make your biggest jump. Between years 1 and 2 is traditionally the biggest leap for a player. So I want to kind of go back and forth there for a couple people that we expect to take those biggest jumps that are entering their sophomore season here this year. I have someone listed for quarterback, running back, and then I have a couple of receivers. For where would you want to start?
Oh, you can't go wrong starting with the receivers because there's a whole lot of them.
There is. I got 3 of those. So I'm going to take the easy one. I'm going to say Garrett Wilson with the Jets. I mean, this one's obvious, right? He was offensive rookie of the year last year, correct? Like, he already did it with the worst quarterback play in the entire National Football League. And now he's got Aaron Rodgers, a 4-time MVP, a top 5 quarterback of all time, no doubt. And obviously the chemistry there is already strong, and Rodgers doesn't throw out compliments lightly. He has been throwing them at Garrett Wilson, though, like they're candy. So he, to me, is my number one candidate for sophomore surge, regardless of position.
Absolutely. It's, potential all-pro this year. You never know. Certainly a candidate to have one of those type of years. So, yeah, I mean, crazy. He's only in his sophomore season.
Yep.
I'm going to have to go with the next obvious one at wide receiver, Christian Watson. I mean, not even a homer. Let's be serious. It took him half the year. To get going last year. And just like the second half of the season, he put up numbers, just making snags over people. And, now he's going to have that level of intensity, that level of experience, and then some for a full season. And so obviously he's in place to step up, and I don't care who's throwing him the ball. He's a talented wide receiver. He's going to prove that this year, that he's going to make a few catches that are, he's him. Yep. Garrett Wilson and Christian Watson, very, very, potential Pro Bowlers, all that good stuff. You wait and see.
For what's your favorite bet this year for the season?
Oh man, I don't know if, I heard that they put the touchdown line for Christian Watson at 4.5. I saw 3.5, then I saw 4.5. So I don't know. Either way, come on. If he's healthy, he's getting at least 7. I don't know. And that's at least. That's like what? Because what did Jefferson get last year? He got like
8.
Yeah. So at least.
Yeah, that's a good one. I might have to hop on that one myself.
Right.
And the Christian Watson pick goes without saying. I figured you'd go that route, so I didn't even waste my slot there because I knew you would.
Someone had to.
Yeah, obviously. And someone also had to do Christian Watson's counterpart, and that's Romeo Doubs.
Oh, true.
And I said this last year going into the year that Watson's got the better pure talent. Like, he's a better athlete, more track speed, can more naturally, like, even moss guys as far as just his catching ability there. But Romeo Doubs, he's crisp. His routes are nice. He's a good hands catcher, as Rodgers would say a lot of times last year. He looked good in the preseason game against the Bengals, caught that touchdown, which was a nice one as well. So for me, he's someone who I expect to make a surge as well. So Packer wideouts, I expect them both to have a nice season.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Who knows? Maybe Watson doesn't get that touchdown total because Doubs is hogging them all in the red zone.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Maybe a lot of hungry young mouths to feed, some hungry young hippos.
Absolutely. I got to get one more receiver in there, right?
Yep.
There's still a lot of good options, but I probably got to pick Drake London.
Oh.
I wanted to say Treylon Burks because especially with Hopkins opening things up. So, I'll say them both, I guess. But Drake London, I think, I don't know. I think the Falcons are just due to at least click a little bit on offense, and they always have good receivers, it seems like. So, and, London, obviously a talented guy, a high pick, and I think second year, some guys just need a year to get their feet wet. And he seems like a type of guy, if they can get things rolling in the right direction in Atlanta, he could really, have a special season, a classic Falcons receiver season.
That's fair. Drake London had some nice flashes last year. And then Who else did you sprinkle in there?
Treylon Burks.
Treylon Burks. Yeah, that's a good one. Last year I drafted him in fantasy because I dumbly thought he was going to replace A.J. Brown's production. But maybe you're right. Maybe with Hopkins being there and he's not the number one, maybe that's all he needed to be able to emerge and be himself. So I kind of like that one too. And I'm glad you had a third because I have a third. And this is one that I was excited to say too. And Drake would be very happy about this one. That's George Pickens. I mean,
definitely.
Need I say more? Just go watch the tape, man, from last year and from this training camp. I like Pickens. And
I figured you were going to say Pickens. That's why I didn't say him.
There you go. Hey. And you talked about how the Falcons have a track record of good receivers. Does anyone have a better track record than the Steelers? Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, you could even say. They've got A-Rob now. Obviously, they didn't make him. Antonio Brown, Santonio Holmes, Mike Wallace, Emmanuel Sanders, Hines Ward, Randall L., right? Yeah, and then I think they had Plaxico Burress at one point. So, wide receiver even though it's, NFL, so a little different. But
True.
George Pickens is going to be a absolute dog this upcoming season.
Hell yeah, I believe that. They got a lot of weapons across the board to open things up, and they don't. Once Pickens really starts making plays, go back and forth between him and Deontay Johnson, and then A-Rob, and so they got a lot of tools to open things up for all of them. And Pickens, obviously the young gun, if you could take that next step, definitely this is the year to do it.
Agreed. How about the running back position? This one was hard for me, but where did you land there?
I think Rashad White, Buccaneers. Yeah. I mean, he was getting scrappy last season, and getting a surprising amount of reps, tons of reps as a rookie, and year two. Especially with the new QB and Baker, they might be checking it down to him a little more. They might, try to lean into him a bit more because last year they did, they knew it was Brady's last hurrah, kind of. They were just, pass, right? I'm pretty sure there was some stat that the Buccaneers had like the least amount of rushing attempts or yards or something.
Yep. They were 32nd in the league.
Yeah. And I don't know. I think they're going to obviously try to change up their culture and a little bit of their identity, obviously. So, I think Rashad White is in position to have a nice season,
That's a good one. He was originally penciled in for me. He ended up being my runner-up, which I'm glad since you went that route. He was able to still get some love.
Hey.
And before I give mine, the obvious answers would be Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker.
Right.
And the reasons I didn't go with them is, one, they already showed that they have elite talent. Like, they made their surge already. And two, they're coming back from injury. So maybe in the totality of the season, their stats will be a little bit lesser than their talent suggests. Now, this guy went down with an injury too, but I expect him to hit the ground running right away. And he's the solo guy there. Dameon Pierce with the Texans. I think he'll be nice. He had a good stretch last year in the thick of the season, and I think this upcoming season with a rookie quarterback, they will lean on him. So Dameon Pierce, I expect to have a very nice sophomore season.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's, pencil that in for fantasy, but I think we had him go in the 4th round of our mock the other day.
Yeah, he's probably going to go 3rd, I would maybe even think. It depends. Obviously, everyone's got their own preference, but yeah, Dameon Pierce is going to be a nice piece in fantasy. You're exactly right there. Now, the hardest one might have been for this, the quarterbacks, because last year's rookie class was cheeks. It was cheeks. If Bailey Zappi is worth mentioning in a QB class, it ain't good.
Oof. Yeah, for real. I mean, where do you start? You start.
So for me, I went with Kenny Pickett. I'm not a Kenny guy. I'm not. I especially have held it against him with the fake slide thing when he was at Pitt. That bugged me so much. However, second half of last year, he was significantly improved. and he got the turnovers under control. I couldn't no longer sing my little jingle for him of can he pick it? Yes, he can. I can't sing that anymore. If he gets those downs, he's got nice weapons in place. We talked about Pickens. We mentioned Deontay Johnson and A-Rob. Don't forget Pat Freiermuth or Najee Harris. So like I like the Steelers offense and the pieces that they have. And in year 2, I think Kenny can take a leap. Last year he wasn't very good. This year, I'm not saying he's going to be a top 15 quarterback, but he can at least, be serviceable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And Tomlin is determined as per usual to get his guys to finish with a winning season. And,
nuts.
That would require Pickett to kind of elevate his game a bit in year 2, as you would expect any young franchise QB to, potential franchise QB. I agree. I think Pickett's stepping up. Steelers definitely competing no matter what. And now let me think. QBs. I mean, Purdy, I have no idea where his health is at. And I'm not going to get behind him anyways, even though I do think he's
Pumpkin Purdy.
Yeah, even though he has potential to come back and just, win out again, like until the playoffs, deep in the playoffs. And but so not Purdy, but I think I'm going with I almost might as well flip a coin. Like I'm not going to, but between Desmond Ridder and Sam Howell,
you should. That's fair point.
Like one of them is going to step up. The other one is going to stink, right? I mean, I don't know, scientifically, just the odds. Like, so I'm gonna go with I'm gonna pick Sam Howell as a step up relative to a rookie season. I think he's gonna compete, and if the Commanders defense can keep him in games, maybe he can have the chance to make a few special plays and at least, be considered to have a step up sophomore year.
I mean, anything's a step up for him, isn't it? He played one game for the Commies.
Right. Exactly. If he plays the full year and doesn't get benched,
put in Brissett.
He probably checks it. Hey, we'll see. Depends. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if they stink, for sure, he's getting booted, and then Ritter's probably the guy, because even if Ritter stinks, their division is probably going to stink, maybe relatively.
Yeah.
So Ritter might have the chance to stay in longer. That's a tough one to pick between those two.
I know.
Going to have a better year.
We haven't seen anything of those guys, so yeah, flipping a coin is exactly right. But
right,
yeah, I could get behind the Howell pick because Terry McLaurin is there. Of those two franchises, he's the best weapon. He's better than Kyle Pitts or easily. Drake London for sure.
Combined.
Right. And they still got Jahan Dotson, who could have been a candidate for taking a leap for receiver.
True.
And they've got Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson in the backfield. So they've let's not say they've got some dogs, but they've got some usable pieces out there.
Right. And if their defense can keep him in games all year, then, maybe Howell gets a few game-winning touchdown passes.
Yeah.
It still stinks, but, maybe he gets some good moments.
Honestly, I expect them both to get benched this year.
Yeah.
I think we'll see Jacoby Brissett and Taylor Heineke this season.
Sounds about right. Sounds very much in the realm of possibilities.
Yeah. Now let's move on into teams and actually diving in there. So prepping for the year here, wouldn't it be fun to know about your team? Know what is the worst that they can do? What is the best that they can do? Where is your floor? Where is your ceiling? What's in the middle? How are you going to get to where you want to go? How is it going to play down? So we're going to do that division by division. Today, we will start with the NFC North, which obviously we are very familiar with, Fur and I, but we'll go through each team and be as objective as we can there. And we mentioned, when we were talking about this before, and I used the Lions as an example. So I do want to start with the Lions. Fur, would you like to be leading off, or would you like to be the secondary take?
Yeah, you could kick us off with the Lions.
Okay.
See what you got. Dan
All right.
Campbell's Lions.
Dan Campbell. His name will come up again later today.
True.
So the Lions, I hate to break it to you, your floor is not like, it's not your 0-16 floor that you had, 12, 15 years ago, but it ain't great. Your floor is 6-11. And why is that your floor? Because there's things that can go wrong. One, your defense doesn't improve and it's still one of the worst in the league. Two, Jared Goff regresses a little bit back to the mean of his career as far as being an average quarterback, which I believe he is. Three, the loss of Jamal Williams hurts that locker room. Four, the energy of Dan Campbell starts to wear off. Like, all those things happen, or, Jahmyr Gibbs suffers an injury, or Jameson Williams doesn't come back how you'd like him to. Like, things go bad. Things can go bad for that franchise, which is historically snake bitten. So that is your floor. Now your ceiling is the flip of that. It's the inverse, 11-6, to where you are a strong playoff team. You book a seat. You book a seat at the table. You punch a ticket. You even win the divisional crown of the NFC North for the very first time. Let's not forget, the Lions have never won the NFC North. Last time they won the division, it was the NFC Central. So,
damn.
that is your ceiling, is winning the division, making the playoffs, stealing a playoff win, and then losing to the class of the NFC with either the Eagles, the Cowboys, or the Niners. That is your ceiling. I personally think you'll be somewhere in the middle of that, closer to the top than to the bottom, but that's how I see the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree, Would you say their floor was 6-11?
Yep.
I'm going to expand the range a little bit. I'm going to say the floor is 5-12, but the ceiling is 12-5. I'm going to give the Lions that level of, definitely few injuries, maybe, Pensuel, maybe Goff,
Yeah.
Maybe a couple of those DBs on the back end.
Well, Gardner Johnson already suffered an injury, correct?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. That's what, so it's already sort of, at least, you hate to see it because, Gardner Johnson's a baller. But, obviously a few things go wrong, and I think they could be 5-12. But 12-5, I don't know. I tend to think a lot of times when teams finish really strong at the end of a year, I think a lot of times it continues. Like, as long as they keep the core together and, I agree losing Jamal Williams does hurt their locker room a bit, but their running back room is still loaded. And 12-5, I could see them, like, if they beat the Chiefs, if they take the hungover Chiefs for a ride in week 1, then 12-5, why not? Maybe, but you never know. Probably that's just the range, and like you said, probably in the middle, 10-7, 9-8, something like that.
We'll get to official prediction time once we know what the 53-man rosters look like. So obviously a lot more variance right now than what we're actually going to hone in on when the time comes. True. But let's leave the Lions in the dust and continue on here with last year's NFC North champions, the Minnesota Vikings. I'll let you take the lead here.
Vikings, well, they're managing the load at this point. They didn't add, much this offseason. A few good draft picks. Who knows? Maybe they could turn out and be really good. But they really got weaker, I think, at every position on their defense. Forget about Dalvin Cook for a while. Like, I think the defense, unless they prove me wrong, you never know. But, on paper, the defense is trending downward. Last year, they were already, on paper, a fraudulent 13-4 team. Yep. I mean, we all saw the point differential, like that's just objective. So, just not really doing much to improve, I think. And so I'm going to put their floor, their floor, I think, is 6-11. I think they obviously still have, a lot of talented players on both sides of the ball. And, I just don't think they're putting it together like they should. So floor would be 6-11. Ceiling, 12-5, I guess. Just because the NFC is kind of, they could have another fraudulent, 0-point differential, 12 plus win season. It's just that type of year in the NFC, and so that's my answer. Ceiling 12-5, floor 11-6, similar to the Lions.
Yeah, and floor you meant 6-11, but I think we got
it. Yeah. Whoops.
So you said similar to Lions. I'm going to do the exact same pick as I did for the Lions, that being 6-11 to 11-6. And everything you said as far as why it can go wrong is exactly right. And what I'll add to that is look at the Vikings track record over the past 10 years. It's, nice, good season, usually a little fraudulent, come back down to earth. Nice, good season, back down, up and down, up and down. They ride the wave. And with that defense having lost so many pieces, I 100% agree with that point. And also, Dalvin Cook I was a big proponent of letting him go, but there is a risk to that because, again, if Alexander Mattison is just fine or if he gets hurt and the other good running backs have been scooped up by then, you're going to be in a tough spot asking Kirk to throw 40 times a game. And don't forget, Adam Thielen's gone too. You did replace him with a first-round rookie, so there's something there. But you never know how quickly a rookie receiver is going to ascend, how quickly they're going to adjust to the league. So there are reasons things can go wrong for the Vikings. I do still think they'll be a pretty solid team, but ain't no way they're winning 13 games again. There's no way they're going 11-0 in one-score games again. They're just not. They aren't. It's the law of nature.
I agree. I'm lowering my ceiling to 11 instead of 12.
There we go. I'm going to be a master debater.
Right.
So yeah, I think we're on the same exact page with the Vikings. You know what your ceiling is when you have a Kirk Cousins and not an elite team. And I don't think they're an elite team. They might have the best receiver in football, but then after that, it's a bunch of guys. Zadarius Smith, he gone. Patrick Peterson, he gone. Who else they lose? Then they lose a linebacker or two as well. Now, I will say their saving grace could be the addition of Brian Flores as defensive coordinator. He's the only reason that I still have them having a respectable ceiling because of the off chance that he does fix the defense, even with less pieces at his disposal. So still a very formidable team in the North, but a team that I sincerely predict to take a step back, at least to some degree. Yep.
Couldn't agree more. So who next in the NFC North?
We'll go with the number one overall pick who traded back, but don't forget they were the number one overall pick, the Chicago Bears. And I'll kick off this one. There's a lot of variance here. I'd say floor for the Bears is 5-12 and ceiling is 9-8. So actually not a ton of variance, only 4 games.
True.
But I could see it going a lot of ways because the schedule is soft and they are significantly improved with the additions of, TJ Edwards and DJ Moore, Bob Tunyon, Mercedes Lewis, just stealing Edmonds from the Packers. Like they did get better. Edmonds. Yeah, exactly. They got better. They brought in Yannick Ngakoue a couple weeks ago as well. So, and don't forget, Chase Claypool will be more acclimated this year. And they did have some pieces, but we do have to also know that, they were the number one pick, the worst team in football last year. That's facts. That's what it was. I don't care how many yards Justin Fields ran for. They won 3 games. Now, the bad for them would be, hey, we fixed the roster. We've got weapons. The defense is improving. We've got a good infrastructure. But then you find out Justin Fields is what he is. He's a running quarterback who is limited as a passer. If that's the case, you can be a pretty annoying and pesky 6-11, 5-12, 7-10 team. But if he takes a step, if he develops as a passer with those weapons, you can be pushing playoffs. I think the defense needs another year of adding to it to make them a double-digit win type of team. But the Bears can be a frisky fringe playoff team this year. I do believe that. I expect their record to be more in that 7, 8, 9 win category, but there is ways things could go wrong to where they're worse. So overall, Bears should feel like they're taking a step forward, but when you're taking a step forward from the back of the line, you still ain't at the front of the line.
Yep, I agree on the definitely, all the Bears, 5-12 is the floor, I think. They obviously got better. They're obviously going to win more games than last year because, geez. And I'm going to put their ceiling at 10-7, one game higher, I think. Obviously, yeah, right. If Fields steps up, and the defense obviously is always scrappy, and if they step up, and the O-line is everyone's biggest concern. If they can really, protect Fields and let him do his thing and get throwing, definitely borderline, 10-7. I guess that's a definite playoff team if they were to secure that in the NFC, at least. I think that's definite. So that's another thing. Just the NFC. Little less powerhouses this year to play. So I think the Bears I could see them winning 10 games if things go right.
If that's the way the cookie crumbles. They got a new primary logo.
Oh, new era.
Yeah, simply because of the fact that the toilet seat is no longer their primary. Like they won't be the number one pick.
For real. Yep. Week 1. Pretty excited and nervous because that's big game.
Bragging
Packers
rights.
versus Bears, Week 1.
Yep. Had a lot of Bears fans approach me already with bets. They're feeling it. They are feeling it, as they should. They got reasons to be excited. Now, let's wrap up the North with the usual Kings of the North, not last year, but the Green Bay Packers, who are a new look Green Bay Packers. Fur, I will pivot to you to kick us away.
Ooh. Well, I'm gonna. Usually we start with the floor. I'm gonna start with the ceiling for the Packers. I don't know, 12-5. Like I've said for every team so far, and like I will say for every team in the NFC, a lot less competitive of a schedule. Once you look at everyone's 17 game schedules, a lot of these NFC teams, especially because the NFC North plays against the entire NFC South this year. So every NFC North team, I consider to have an easy schedule. And the Packers, Rodgers had a broken thumb last year, and we went 8-9. And team, young team, we're just still getting better. And if Love is at least decent, if Love is better than Rodgers with a broken thumb, then we could easily win 10 games, maybe even 11. And obviously, I'm going 12 if the Packers defense lights out like we hope for every year. So 12-5, that's my ceiling. And floor, well, 5-12, I guess.
5-12, yeah. Wow.
So I got us and the Lions with the same range, big wide range, 5-12 to 12-5. So yeah, NFC North is going to be interesting this year. We shall see.
And that's a significant variance for the Packers, obviously, with the change of the guard. So I understand your point there. I had to go off screen for a second as I was getting attacked by Peaches, the cat over here. So had to get myself some armor whilst fending off the attack from the cat. But I agree with pretty much everything you said about the Packers and the North in general. The soft schedule makes the landing a lot softer and a lot more manageable if things even do go bad. Like no one's floor in the North is picking number 1 overall. Like I don't think any team is going to be in the cellar of the NFL. For the Packers, I personally had them with a much tighter range. And for me, it's anywhere from 7-10 to 11-6. So a very tight range there. And the reason being is kind of like what you mentioned. Like last year, Packers 8-9 with a lot of things going wrong and a lot of injuries. So even if Love is not the guy, if he's the 27th best quarterback in the league, I think this is a good enough roster to win 7 games, especially with the soft schedule. And then on the flip side, if Jordan Love is the guy and he's the 15th best quarterback in the league, then that gives you several more wins. Now, the reason that I have their ceiling a little bit lower than you do is because no matter what, there's going to be some degree of a learning curve for the Packers because new quarterback, Jordan Love. Yes, he's been there 3 years, but there's certain things that him and LaFleur and the team in general are going to find that you lose when you lose a Hall of Fame quarterback. Like that's factual. There's going to be games the Packers lose this year that they should have won or leads that they blow, whatever it might be. Also, so many of these players on offense are so significantly young. So there can be a learning curve there too. And I am a little nervous about the kicking game for the Packers.
Yeah, true. Definitely. That'll be something to keep an eye on.
I've fully prepared myself for the fact that there's going to be at least one game this year where we lose because we miss a field goal.
Yeah. And there was a few of those throughout Crosby's career, but, you don't want to see that, from a young rookie. I mean, I don't know, especially if he's missing extra points already. Whew, yep, it'll be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's where I'm on the Packers. I think I'm really threading the needle with that. I'm like, this is your possibilities. It doesn't leave me a lot of room for error there, but that's how I feel with the Pack is that either way, they're going to be a solid football team. Now, either they're a solid football team with too many holes to get them to where they want to be, or they're a solid football team that's a year away. So overall, I'd still be walking away from the season positive, regardless of where they are within that range. But obviously, we've grown accustomed to the playoffs, and we've grown accustomed to playing in January. So that's still the hope and still a very real possibility, especially in the weak NFC.
That's right. Absolutely.
Well, that about wraps up the overall analysis and ceiling to floor analysis of the NFC North. So now we are going to pivot here a little bit to a game, and we have a top 10 list this week with the safeties.
Oh, yeah. Last line of defense.
Ooh.
There's no Ed Reeds or Troy Polamalu's out there, but or Dawkins.
No, not quite.
But
which is why, there's some strong guys out there. Because I wanted to call the safeties like the ball hawks or something like that, but there just aren't that many in the league right now. So safeties, you said last line of defense, and I think I'm going to have to rock with that one as far as what we call the safeties. The last line of defense, some of these guys can become the offense with how they are able to play. But let's break into it, starting at the bottom. Fur, who rocks number 10?
Oof. Well, I'm going to give a quick shouts to my honorable mentions of Javon Holland and Hufanga. No offense. T. Hufanga.
I think
he's a dog. A lot of, as I was looking up and reviewing all the safeties in the league, he definitely, I don't know, he probably should be top 10 after the year he had last year, but I couldn't leave some of these other names off, and Hufanga's on a stacked defense. Obviously, he's one of the better players on a stacked defense, but so honorable mentions: Hufanga and Holland. My 10, though. Oh, you got anything to say about them?
I was going to say Hufanga would have been my honorable mention as well.
Yeah, that's a good one. 10, that's where I got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. He's a dog. He's a hard hitter. He's mean. He plays aggressive. You like to, in the spirit of Brian Dawkins, he's trying his best. Sometimes he gets caught out of position and a little too aggressive, sometimes a little too freelance, too much of a missile. But he is a missile, and he can, it's obviously shown it. It's a shame that he got hurt because he definitely would have made some noise for the Lions. Just as a fan of the sport, you hate to see that. Gardner Johnson, I don't know how long he's out for, but whenever he comes back, he's going to continue to be a missile. So he's my 10.
I like that one. He did not make my list, but I do like that one. Number 10 for me is where I got Jesse Bates. He had a couple of nice seasons with his run with the Bengals over the past few years, and now we'll see what he does in his new chapter here. But I still like Jesse Bates and consider him a top 10 safety.
Absolutely. Jesse Bates is a dog.
Just edging him out, number 9 is where I locked in Jordan Poyer. So very similar players, I feel like, at least in my experience watching them. And I like Jordan Poyer as well. For me at least, not like a pushing top 5 type of guy, but a very steady hand back there.
Yeah, completely agree. I got Poyer coming up real soon. Yep, he's been at it for years. The consistency is, if you don't got safeties that aren't lighting up and breaking games, you want them to be consistent, and he's been that for sure.
Yep.
So that's your 9.
Yep.
My 9, I got Tyrann Mathieu. Oh, I feel like I should have him higher, but he's aging, and he's still putting in work with the Saints. They are obviously always an underrated defense, and he's a part of that. He was a huge part of the Chiefs' success before, and I think that's still, worth considering even when ranking him now. Like he has that in him. He can, and so Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger, had to crack him in there. He's at 9 for me.
I like it, and I'll jump out of order here real quick to go again and say my number 8 because it's also Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. Still a very good safety. I think you're right. Maybe losing a little bit of a step, but he did have a good year. He graded out well last season in terms of pass coverage and whatnot. So still a very good player.
Yep. And I had Poyer at 8, so we had Poyer and Mathieu flip-flop there.
There we
Definitely a good spot for them. So that puts us at 7. That's where I put Micah Hyde.
Hey, me too.
Really nice. Absolutely. Yeah. As I was, looking through other people's lists and, PFF's breakdowns and all of that, of all the safeties, and, Hyde is always higher, on the high end, even though he was injured last year. But
yeah,
I don't know. He's obviously a, top 10 safety. If anything, I'm talking about fighting the urge to put him in the top 5.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I guess just the, agent and injury combo a little bit.
Yeah.
But, when the Bills got Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer, both, top 10 safeties, and they both complement each other and add to each other's games. And, Micah Hyde, definitely the leader of those two, I would say. So that's why I got Hyde at 7, Poyer at 8. Them boys.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, yeah, same there. 7 is where I had Micah Hyde. Number 6 is where I had one of your honorable mentions, Javon Holland.
Hey,
I like his game, and I expect him to take another step this year. So I think he'll be a big part on that Dolphins defense, especially with them bringing in Vic Fangio as the defensive coordinator. I think he's going to set them up in a good spot, and I think Holland is going to capitalize and might be pushing top 5 when all is said and done. But at least for now, 6 is where he lands for me.
No, I agree. Holland has definitely got that upside. If anything, I guess I got a little bit of legacy in my list, but also a bit of projection. And yeah, Holland, could easily jump way up on that list for sure. I could see that. You said that was 6 for you, Holland?
That's right.
6 is where I got Jesse Bates. I think Jesse Bates is a dog. He's underrated. Huge part of the Bengals Super Bowl run. I mean, he was the guy that picked off Mahomes in overtime, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
I think he picked him off twice in that game. Maybe I'm imagining things. Either way, he was all over the field at the end of that game. And, playing in clutch moments. It's a shame the Bengals couldn't afford to bring him back. because he was a big part of that run. They had a lot of underrated defenders, and if you have a good safety over the middle, that can be the glue sometimes. And we'll see. Maybe they suffer a bit without him. I mean, their defense, we'll see. But either way, Bates is I think top of the line. Got him at 6.
Yeah, that's an underrated storyline of the Bengals losing their safeties. I agree with you. They might hurt a little bit.
Yeah, time will tell. But yeah, Jesse Bates in Atlanta. Whew, we'll see if he does anything.
In Atlanta, where the players play.
Yeah, that's what they say.
Hey, all right. Well, let's break into this top 5. Kick us off.
Top 5. That's where I got Antoine Winfield Jr. I mean, I feel like he could be higher even for sure, but feel like it's a good safe spot to put him. He, another massive contributor to a deep playoff run, one that ended in a ring.
Yeah.
I mean, massive contributor.
He put up the deuces to Tyreek.
Yep.
You remember that?
Yeah. Well, I forgot, but now I remember. Yeah, that was Matt. Definitely. I mean, they aside from getting Brady, they hit grand slams on their draft picks, and Antoine Winfield on pace, to maybe be the best safety in the league within a year or two, even. Like, all it takes is a few big plays and big moments, and he's right there.
Yeah, that's fair. I like the pick. 5 is where I landed Kevin Byard. One of the more again, steady hand type players. Goes very under the radar, I feel like, a lot of the times, but I have a lot of respect for his game. I think he's a very good player.
Absolutely. It's a good pick. I got him coming up too. Hey,
there we go. So number 4, I'm going to carry on or piggyback on your number 5, Antoine Winfield. And I swear for Madden only plays 5% into my rankings here because Winfield and Holland were my safety duo in our connected online franchise in Madden and Madden 23 last year. But on the field, everything you said, I love the way he plays. He can be a ball hawk, and he can throw. He can put his shoulder down too. Like, he's a very versatile player out there. Obviously, he's got the legacy going from his father who played in the league as well. But Antoine's a very nice player, and I agree with you. He's got a long career ahead of him in the league, and he can continue to climb this list. But 4 is where I got him for now.
Absolutely. If the Buccaneers can keep a lot of their core defensive guys together, they could be real competitive, in a year or two. It's a good spot for Winfield. So that was 4. You got him there. 4 is where I got Justin Simmons. Hey, that's my safety in Madden. Let's go. No, he's I mean, over the years, he's just been so steady for the Broncos. And, I mean, I think he was battling injuries throughout all of last year, but he still collected, I don't know. I didn't see this, but I know he collected a handful of picks last year, at least 4, at least, as he was battling injuries. And the Broncos defense, you'd have to consider him their leader, right? I mean, when you think of all their starters on defense, he's their leader, and their defense continues to be impressive. At least, I mean, last year their offense was so bad, their defense kept them in it, surprisingly, on a lot of those close games. And, Simmons just being the leader of that type of defense, and he's still, kind of in his prime, still, reaching, kind of the golden years of safety. He's got his awareness up, and he's just got a knack for the ball. Got to have him there for Justin Simmons.
He's my number 3.
Yeah.
So I have nothing else to add on that one.
Beautiful. He's a dog. I'll leave it. Yep, definitely. Guys that are just consistent, they're not doing nothing too crazy, but they're always there. That's my number 3, Kevin Byard.
There we go.
He's never making those splash. You never see he doesn't have the Troy Polamalu or the Dawkins in him. He's just always in the right place, collecting the picks, collecting the tackles. He's been there for years. I don't know how long, at least like 6 years now. I think he's been, he's been putting in work, and he's, earned his worth. I think he was planning on holding out, but he didn't. I don't know what happened there, but he is too good. So the Titans got lucky
Yep.
that he's back, because
That's
he's
true.
potential, potential All-Pro every year. He's, at least in that race for All-Pro safeties.
Now, I wonder if we're going to have the same top two here. I would think so, because these are like the two biggest name safeties out there.
Yeah.
Number 2 is where I got Derwin James, a very electric player, struggles to stay on the field sometimes, but when he is out there, he can bring it. He can lay the wood, and he can go get that ball too. So like I remember last year, he had a play where he like stood up Travis Kelce and like threw him down, which you never see anyone get a clean hit on Kelce. Like it's a part of what makes him so great. But Derwin did it, and he's a very nice player. I can't put him at 1, but I think number 2 is where he ought to be.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. I have Derwin James at 2 as well. Definitely. Right, like the staying on the field, a bit of an issue. Was he healthy during their playoff game last year?
I don't remember.
Either way, that's an issue for everyone in the Chargers building.
Yeah.
So, that's what,
All right. We have to have the same number 1, though.
Yeah, Minka, for sure.
Minka.
Right? Yeah, he's got to be. Like I was looking through lists, and I don't know how anyone could have Derwin James at number 1 over Minka. I just don't get it.
I did see it on a few. And how? Minka is the only, like, game changer at safety in the league today. Like, I think the gap between him and everyone else is as big as at any other position in the league. Like, the gap between Minka and Derwin is like the gap between Mahomes and Burrow, I think. Like, significant.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
yeah, like obviously it's not like it's not the Grand Canyon.
No, yeah.
But they're also not neck and neck.
Yeah. I could agree with that. Minka is the guy. And how old is he? I'm about to Google it right now.
Maybe 27. He's not that old.
26. Wow.
Yeah. He is like the safety in the league right now.
Oh yeah. And the Steelers, they're always going for at least 8 or 9 wins. Well, now 9 at least. And he's a huge part of that. They're going to need him, and he's going to step up.
Yep, he's lurking for Depoy one of these years too.
Oh, easily. Yeah, TJ got one. Steelers.
That wraps up our list. Were we sleeping on 2 names come to mind for me? Did we sleep on Harrison Smith?
No, I definitely considered him. It's just, he probably should be in the top 10 still, but
who do you take out though?
I know. I wanted to give Gardner Johnson in there. I think, I still think he's, even though he's a kind of a risky missile, I think that's who I would have to take out. But we're talking 2023. Well, he's hurt, but Harrison Smith is an old man, and he's Hall of Famer though. He's going to the Hall of Fame. Like, he's just getting up there. So I don't think we disrespected him. But
what about Budda Baker?
Maybe a little bit of disrespect, but
he's on the Cardinals.
Yeah, dumpster fire. It's not his fault. Who else? I thought
Amos.
Yeah, no, I wanted to throw him into the honorable mentions, even though he's just probably somewhere around 18 or.
If he didn't take a step back last year, he was there. He was like a 10 to 12th best safety in the league, but last year he had a down year.
Yeah, for sure.
I love Amos.
Oh yeah, he'll probably do great, with the Jets.
Of course he will.
Green Bay East.
Shout out LaFleur.
Hell yeah.
But that'll wrap up, our list this week of the safeties who are, you call them what? The last line of defense, the watchful protectors, the Dark Knights. That's what we're going. The Dark Knights.
See, skinny Batman. That's Devonta Smith.
Yep. Now, I'm excited about this one. Me and Fer have been talking about this for about a week since the idea was conceived in my mind. This is a good one. So this is a new game, and it's called Sportscast. I went back and forth with trying to fit in other names to it, but we are casting movies with sports figures. That's what we're doing. And this week we have to start with the blockbuster of the summer. Sorry, Barbie, I liked your movie too, but the one that is the best in cinema in 2023, maybe in the 2020s in totality, that is the 2000s in totality, and that's Oppenheimer, directed and written by none other than the GOAT, Christopher Nolan. So me and Fur are going to cast the main roles of Oppenheimer, specifically with people in the NFL. So we'll both go through 6 characters in our casting choices there, and you'll hear it. We kind of went very different stylistically. And since we did do that, I think it makes sense for one of us to go entirely and then for another to go entirely, so that like the logic follows from character to character to character. So, Fur, I know you were pumped about this one, so I'm gonna let you kick it off with the casting here on Sportscast.
Oh man! All right, let's do it.
Let me get that banner up there too.
For real. Ooh. Okay, Oppenheimer. Who plays Oppenheimer? I've got Aaron Rodgers as none other than J. Robert Oppenheimer, because he is, incredibly talented, little arrogant, a little, oh God. Just incredible at, he just sees the field in a different, Oppenheimer saw the world in a different, element. They just interpret the physics of their respective games and fields different. So I got Rodgers as Oppenheimer. That's the focal point. Everything else kind of revolves around Aaron Rodgers as Oppenheimer. So that's where I decided to cast Louis Strauss, Robert Downey Jr.'s character, as Brian Gutekunst. Woo! His rival at the end of the day. They met, they worked together, they were buddies, and then things just kind of shit just hit the fan, and they had different opinions on, where to go with their respective work, and by the end they were, running, I don't know, Gutekunst ran, I don't know. I mean, it's not that deep. like Gutekunst, it doesn't hate Rodgers.
Say the line. Say Louis Strauss's line about Oppenheimer. He didn't have the patience.
Oppenheimer. Strauss? Wait.
Yeah, what Strauss says about Oppenheimer. Like, mere mortals. You know that line?
Oh, yeah. True. Strauss says about Oppenheimer, he's like, he didn't have the patience to deal with us mere mortals. That's so Gutekunst with Rodgers for sure. Because, I mean, Rodgers definitely has elevated to a god level in Green Bay. And, some people got to, like, kind of keep him in check, keep the profits, When Rodgers talks, the people hear a profit. When Gutekunst talks, they hear themselves. No, I don't know. But either way, they butt heads, and right, like Gutekunst and Rodgers didn't work together until after Oppenheimer achieved his great achievement, which was a Super Bowl and creating an atomic bomb. so Gut is Strauss. They worked together, severed ties. Kind of got a little petty. But at the end of the day, Oppenheimer or Aaron Rodgers wouldn't, they do it all the same again. They wouldn't change a thing. They want to be the most important man in their organization or universe. So that was my kind of thought process between the Rodgers, Gutekunst, Oppenheimer, Strauss dynamic. And now we pivot over to General Groves, who was played by Mike McCarthy. Yep, that's right. We're sticking with the Packers cast because it's all about the relationships, and that's how I approached mine, at least. Mike McCarthy in general as General Groves is nice because Groves and Oppenheimer, worked together on a project. They achieved their project. They achieved their goal. But at first, Groves did not want Oppenheimer. He was like, screw this guy. Like, I'm not considering him at all. And same thing happened between McCarthy and Rodgers. McCarthy was offensive coordinator or something for the Niners. Yep. And he told them not to draft Rodgers with the first overall pick. So that's where I got that little parallel, Groves. But eventually they had to work together and they had to get the job done, and they did. And, a lot of the narratives always try to paint McCarthy and Rodgers as, butting heads and as, really, they're painted as opponents. But, at the end of the day, they had each other's backs. They respect each other. And same thing with Groves and Oppenheimer. Yep. Though. Gutekunst, that was the real opponent of Rodgers. So that's why it's Strauss. Oh, man, this is perfect. Okay, next. Albertine. This is not so perfect. I feel good about this one. Edward Teller, the guy, the your bum is stupid. We want to build my bum instead. That's Edward Teller is Patrick Mahomes. Because, if I'm if I'm looking at these scientists as quarterbacks, Oppenheimer was Rodgers. And if Rodgers was the most talented QB to ever play the game, more talented than Brady, not as great and accomplished, but more talented, the greatest, until someone came along and built a bigger bomb, and that was Pat Mahomes. He is by far, the H-bomb dwarfs the the first one.
The A-bomb, yep.
Yeah, the A-bomb. So, yep. So I got Pat Mahomes as Edward Teller because that's big time. That's huge. That's talk about bombs, bazookas, deep throws, all that.
Yep.
So now I'm going to continue along with a little bit with the scientists as QBs. I got to put Albert Einstein as Tom Brady. I had to include Brady if I was getting all these, these QB goats involved. And Einstein is the face of science, really, pretty much. Brady has become the face of football, definitely. And, just pretty much right there. Oppenheimer / Rodgers sometimes links up with, Einstein / Brady. They, might be going to him for advice, asking him, what to do. How do you do it, So, or they're just hanging out and walking in the woods or playing golf and whatever. So
admiring the structure of trees.
Exactly, man. Powerful. So that's, Brady as Einstein, just for the big legacy and fame and all that. And then I threw in, it was a hard time, but I'm going to put Brett Favre as Niels Bohr. How about that? He's just because, he worked together with Oppenheimer back in the day, and they respect each other, even after they, stopped working together or whatever. And, just some of the old legends, Favre and Brady as Einstein and Bohr. And, then you got the new guys like Rodgers and Mahomes just changing the game. And, yeah. Oh, yeah. What was it? Something about Brady and Einstein.
Proved him wrong.
No. I don't know. But
before his time.
Oh yeah, that's right. They were like, Einstein was the greatest mind of his whatever, of the world, and Oppenheimer's like, nope, the greatest of his time. So yep, hey, Rodgers is better than Brady. That's part of it. We'll see though. I mean, I don't know, talent wise. So, anyways, those are the 6 characters, right?
Yep, that's right.
Okay. That's I bow to you.
Excellent job. See, Fur, you were able to build a narrative out of your casting. So I respect that for the creativity, and it all worked. All the pieces fit. I like it a lot.
Thanks.
Now, mine is a lot more surface level. I went almost exclusively off of looks.
Well, I like your casting of Einstein better than mine.
Well, we will get there. So let's start in the same order. So starting with J. Robert Oppenheimer, The J stands for apparently nothing, as in
nothing,
movie,
apparently.
but it stands for Julius. But for me, my casting of Robert Oppenheimer is Kyle Shanahan. And the reason is, one, from a look standpoint, like kind of like, skinny face, darker hair. Yeah. Like almost like, short, darker, short hair. So that was part of it, but also Kyle Shanahan being the boy genius. Like that's part of it too.
It's a good choice.
I really leaned heavy into the coaching route here because Lewis Strauss is Pete Carroll. Now, if I'm going more deeper than the looks and age and stuff like that, Pete Carroll and Kyle Shanahan, they're rivals. They're going against each other. So
absolutely,
that was part of the thinking there. So that's the route that I went with. Instead of Robert Downey Jr., we got Pete Carroll. I don't know if I could see Lewis Strauss in front of Congress chewing gum, but I could see him being an opponent of Kyle Shanahan's Oppenheimer.
Absolutely.
General Grove is where I went with Dan Campbell, and looks a little bit not like super far into it, but then it's also just like the persona. Like I feel like for him, like he's got like that general type of
drill sergeant.
Right, exactly. Drill sergeant, telling people about biting kneecaps and probably telling the Lions that like, training camp wearing pads is the most important thing that's ever happened in the history of the world.
Hell yeah.
So Dan Campbell as General Grove, I think he'd do a good job there. Albert Einstein had to go. This one is like the first one I thought of, and that's Andy Reid.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah. Just like the looks with who plays Albert Einstein with Andy Reid.
So jolly too.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that personality fits too. Like, yeah, the jolly, just being more, a genius, but like so happy-go-lucky. And Andy Reid is kind of like, the first offensive genius of our time before, Kyle Shanahan really took that kind of reins as far as like title of like best play designer and whatnot. So it does make sense there. Edward Teller. I really, really struggled with this one. I went back and forth. Now, if I was veering off of my coaching tree or the route that I went there, I thought Big Ben kind of looked like the actor for Edward Teller. But if I was staying in the coaching realm, I'd go with Brian Daboll. I thought, kind of like, it doesn't necessarily look like him, but Edward Teller's a little huskier in the movie itself, especially when he's, up there in age too. But like,
he's huge and he's sweating.
And I could see Daboll being the sweater out there too. So I went back and forth with that one. So sticking with coaches, we'll stay with Daboll. And then Niels Bohr, how many people do you know that proved Einstein wrong? Well, in the coaching world, that would be Bill Belichick, having, being the guy who can outsmart Andy Reid from time to time and kind of being on like opposite ends of the spectrum as far as offense versus defense. So that's what the route I went there. And it's always good to get the genius coach of our era into this, genius group of scientists in history. So yeah, Niels Bohr wraps up that cast with Bill Belichick taking the reins.
Yep, I like your Einstein and Bohr a hell of a lot more than mine. That's what someone had to step up to the role. I mean, Andy Reid is so jolly. That's Einstein, not Tom Brady. Jeez.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Sometimes you overthink it,
Yep. Agreed. All right. Well, let's pivot into our final topic today. Sportscast was a lot of fun.
Wait. Last one. Honorable mention. Roger Robb and the Congress that's interrogating Oppenheimer and Strauss the whole movie, and they're just going, you. That's the NFL media. Because they just wanted to pick Rodgers and Goot and everyone apart until they got their way. And
yep.
So I couldn't let that slide. I had to get the you.
One of the greatest scenes in the movie is that whole interrogation, especially when it climaxes. So if you haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, go to a theater, see it now. Don't wait for it to come to your couch. Go out and see it.
Oh yeah, you got to hear it. The sound.
We don't work for them, I swear.
Yep.
So let's take a break from our inaugural version of Sportscast, which was a lot of fun, something that I think should return.
Hell yeah, I was happy to be on the first one of it. It was a good time.
Oh, you're part of the inspiration with Fur's one of the ones carrying the weight for the box office with Oppenheimer.
Yep, someone's got to do it. We're gonna catch up to Barbie.
Yeah, over time, probably not, but
sure.
Better ratings.
Hell yeah.
All right. And that'll bring us to the final topic today as we're at that hour and a half mark. So we'll be wrapping up with a little bit of fantasy here. So it's fantasy football season. Hope you got your draft scheduled. If you've done them already, cancel that, reschedule it. Too early. Come on.
Seriously.
But now if you're getting ready for it, we're going to talk about our favorite targets and our least favorite targets. Who do we love this year and who are we absolutely not touching? So let's start with the positive. We got a positive vibe going here. And I'll kick off with my first favorite target this year and talked about him briefly earlier, and that's Najee Harris. And the reason he's one of my favorites is you can get him a little bit later than last year. Last year he was a first-round pick. I drafted him twice in the first round last year. And another part is that my trend in fantasy is I get people a year before their best season. So I had him last year. This year will be his best season. Najee kicks it off for me.
Hell yeah. Break the trend.
I hope so.
Najee, huh? Well, I mean, yeah, that's like definitely a good one. I was kind of going a little more deep cut a little bit. I mean, I could maybe pick a higher. I'm gonna start off with my sleeper pick, which it just makes a lot of sense. But dude, DeAndre Swift, come on. I don't know. I mean, what they got? Penny, Gainwell, and him. Like,
yep.
I mean, they could definitely split a ton, but I could if anyone's gonna run away with it, it's gonna be Swift. That O-line, I mean, geez. So, I mean, obviously probably not taking him within the first 4 or 5, but maybe start thinking about him, 6th or 5th round, maybe.
Maybe.
Especially if you're light at running back, might as well just swipe him and don't even wait, I mean.
No, I like that one a lot. And he's someone who I have been targeting too. So we might be competing. Fur and I are actually drafting back-to-back in our league together. So we might be fighting over some of these guys.
Can't believe we're spilling this.
I know. And some of the people that watch know who, they're in our leagues. But I agree with that one because it was the same logic I had last year. I drafted Miles Sanders in a couple of franchises because not necessarily because Miles Sanders is so good, but because the Eagles' run game is so good. And someone's got to get the carries there outside of Jalen Hurts. So I agree with that. And DeAndre Swift is probably actually more talented than Miles Sanders, I would think. So he could be due for a nice season. He hasn't had an overly heavy workload over the course of his career to this point with his time in Detroit. So I like that pick.
Could be, looking back on it and thinking like, how did we not pick him in the first 4 rounds,
Right.
Ooh, maybe.
Yeah. Now I'm going to stick with a Steeler here and go with a slightly deeper cut than my original pick. And I'm going to talk about this guy that I talked about earlier, George Pickens. I think he's a streaking player in fantasy. I'm not alone in him being a favorite target, but for me, he's definitely someone I'm looking at.
Absolutely. They got them weapons. Some guys that are, going to step up. Got a whole lot of options. Pickens, though, for sure. What round you eyeing him?
Can't say.
No, almost. Well, let me try to. I mean, I know who I'm staying away from. No, I'm not saying that yet, though.
One more
Calvin Ridley
target.
Calvin Ridley.
I had him too.
Oh
no.
Calvin Ridley.
Just so you know, you got to take him in round 2 if you want to take him from me.
Oh, for sure. So that's not happening. But he's gonna have a monster year for sure. No doubt. All right, fine. Then I'll sprinkle in my sleeper, Dalton Kincaid. Brr. Oh,
I like that one. I got him in our mock draft the other night that we did. So, man, we're really going to be fighting for each other's picks.
That's right. Hey, Kincaid, though, I mean, yeah. So I guess those are my sleepers, Got one early, mid, and late a little bit.
Yeah. I like it. And, yeah, we were able to cover a decent amount of ground there with like the, places you can get those guys. My last one to make note of here briefly is Garrett Wilson, which he's going to be a high pick, but I'm all in on Garrett Wilson.
Yep. I mean, I don't disagree with it. When you said you would
top 3 receiver this year in fantasy.
Yeah, as long as everything goes right with the health and O-line. But definitely though. I mean, either way, O-line or not, he's putting up numbers.
Yeah, last year he did with Zach Wilson, Mike White, and Joe Flacco.
Yeah, no, exactly. O-line or not, he's definitely putting up numbers.
And I feel comfortable saying that because no one will draft him higher than I am willing to.
I mean, I think it's a good year for a bold swing at the 7th overall pick.
Yep. Now let's go a little negative to wrap up fantasy. Who are we absolutely not touching? Like not even with a 39.5-foot pole.
Alexander Madison.
Come on.
Dude, they're totally bringing in, like you said earlier, they're totally bringing in Fournette or Hunt or something because Madison, when by the time it hits like week 5 and he hasn't gotten over 100 yards, or maybe once he did, but he's just getting stuffed. Come on. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a homer pick, but I'm not touching him.
It'd have to be at the right spot for me to consider it, but I've also been a very, very vocal about this. Like this year in fantasy, I am no longer going to do the, I can't believe this person fell to me or this person's still available strategy. I'm not doing it. It always gets me in trouble.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess he's someone I'm not touching either. And staying with running backs, Alvin Kamara. He's someone who in years past, if he fell to me in the second round, I would have been like, but now it's going to be like, nope, no, thank you.
Yeah, no, missing 3 or 4 games or not.
And Jamal Williams is going to steal carries.
Oh, for sure. Hell yeah, I drafted Jamal Williams in our mock the other day. Late. He's a beast. So yeah, who would I stay away from? I mean, might as well stick with this. Oh yeah, I already said Madison, but Michael Thomas too. Stay away. I mean, everyone knows that at this point. If anything, he's got to prove us wrong.
Yep. He was my second player on the list here too. So I figured, I fell into that. I stepped in that bear trap last year, and I was stuck in it. Anyways, the next player on my list is another receiver, and that's Adam Thielen. There's reasons to like him as he might be the number 1 on the Panthers, but I can't trust it. No, thank you.
Yeah. No. I mean, Panthers, we'd have to see, or he'd have to fall to you.
No. Maybe in like the 8th round.
True. Let's see. Someone that I wouldn't touch. Probably, Kyle Pitts. I mean, I had him last 2 years or so in one of my other leagues, and I don't know. It's not happening.
Yeah, that's fair. He's scary to try to take. How many more times can you be burned before it's fool me once, so on and so forth.
I mean, someone's gonna take him high because he's pretty sick in Madden, but
yeah, that's true. My next person I'm absolutely not touching is Marquise Brown. I want no piece of Hollywood.
Yeah, that's definitely fair.
I don't really want anyone on the Cardinals, to be totally honest.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, Kyler Murray. I mean, obviously. How long is he out for? I mean, even when he comes back, stay away.
They might be tanking.
Right. Yeah, for real.
Do you have any other listed on the untouchable in a bad way?
I I mean, no, not really. I mean, Russell Wilson, but even this year. Okay, you're all right. Well, by the end of this year, who knows? But just based off of last year, I'm not touching him. Even if
not even as a backup quarterback.
Oh, well, I guess.
So you would touch him.
I guess that's part of it. True. But no, I'm not.
My final untouchable in a bad way is Josh Jacobs, because I have no idea what's going on there, and I am not high on the Raiders either.
Yeah.
I want no part of it, especially with how high you'd have to take them.
When would you take him if you fell and you just can't refuse because it's Josh Jacobs?
3rd round.
Yeah. That sounds about right.
He's going to go in early 2nd, I think.
Yeah, someone. Yeah. Yeah, 'tis the season. Coming real soon.
Yep, excited for it. Fantasy draft season. And we were able to do a mock the other night, so got a good feel for it, excited for it. Hope this helped you guys with some ideas on who people in general are high on and who we're high on as well, and also who you should be really sticking away from. That being said, that absolutely wraps up what we have here today on Mad Talk Sports, episode 33. So that'll do it for this week. But next week, we will be back breaking down more before the NFL season, going through another division of the ceiling to floor and the overall analysis in between. Another list as we continue that series there. And we'll see what else we got exciting to talk about when that time rolls around. But for tonight, that's a wrap. Fur, thank you again for joining.
Thanks for having me. It's fun. 'Tis the season. Football. Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer. That was definitely a highlight. But thank you everyone
for the future fan casts or sportscasts that you do. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, mine's already rolling a little bit with what would be some good ideas there with, not even just blockbusters now, but classics. So definitely excited about that.